The podcast is under review. After a review of the podcast, it was determined it crossed the line completely. We have a goal. News, trades, highlight reels. Get your hockey fix with The Podcast is Under Review. Hello, and welcome to The Podcast is Under Review. I am your host, Liam G., joined alongside my co-host,
Ryan Pulsiver.
and today we are looking at the round 2 matchups. Now, if you have been around for a fraction of a second, however long this podcast has been out for, you may have seen that we did round 1. So this is the look at the semifinals. Semifinals? Semifinals.
No.
Quarterfinals.
Eastern and Western semifinals.
Okay. That. You can tell we're clearly great at this. So we're taking a look at both the East and West semifinals. And I guess without further ado, let's begin.
Well, we should also probably address the elephant in the room at the time of our recording. Game 7 between Vancouver and Edmonton hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, that is true. I guess in this case we could give this is gonna sound really funny. We could give both cases and then just cut out the other one in post. Because this isn't going up beforehand, right?
No, probably not.
We can give both case scenarios saying, oh, Vancouver won and oh, Edmonton won, and then just scrap the other one.
I don't even know if this is part of the podcast at this point. Are we doing a podcast within the podcast, or is this the podcast out of the podcast but in the podcast?
I don't know. There's so many walls broken. I don't know that we can recover. We'll see what happens.
Let's save that one for last.
Yeah, let's see Vancouver and Edmonton for last. But yeah, Ryan's right. This is, as of recording this, Game 7 has not happened. It's scheduled for tonight at like a ridiculous
10 o'clock,
at
10 or 11.
At like 10 o'clock our time. So we don't know the winner, but we know the outcome of the remainder of the series.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I believe we started in the West last time and then went to the East.
Yes,
Shall we reverse it? Shall we begin with East, go with West?
Yeah, I like that. Let's go with that.
Okay. Do you want to start off the East then? Would you want to pick the matchups that we'll talk about first?
Well, let's pick the less surprising series, I think, and talk about Florida-Boston.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think this series went kind of how a lot of us expected it to.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, there's a lot of things you can break down with this series, and there's a lot of ways that you can look at this series. I think the big thing that I look at this series is Jeremy Swayman went from one of the greatest playoff series statistically of all time against the Toronto Maple Leafs to, he wasn't bad.
Yeah.
We've seen bad goaltending in series before. Believe me, I'm a Penguins fan.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen bad goaltending in playoff series before.
Yeah.
A lot. So I wouldn't say it was bad, but he looked very human, and I don't think there was a single goal against the Leafs where you're like, you know what, he wants that one back.
Mm-hmm.
It's a low number. There was quite a few in Florida where it was like, that kind of can't go in.
Yeah.
I mean, the star power for Boston, I also didn't think was quite up to par. Marchand obviously took the big hit from Bennett, and he got a bit hurt.
And he was out for 2 games before coming back to 6, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, Pastrnak, hard to evaluate his playoffs. He wasn't bad, but man, you also feel like if he was in a different uniform, he might be getting caved online right now.
Yeah.
Didn't quite step up the way they needed him to. And I mean, that's the series right there. If you're goaltending, if you beat the Leafs in overtime of Game 7 on some of the greatest goaltending of all time, you don't step it up in the next round and your goaltending regresses, well, now you're playing a better team.
Mm-hmm.
This was probably always going to be the expectation, and I thought Montgomery was all right coaching through these playoffs. I don't really know what he was supposed to do if he couldn't get more out of his stars.
Mm-hmm.
As for Florida, I mean, You out-Bruins the Bruins, which is nice.
There's something to be said about that too. Not many teams can claim that.
I mean, we kind of saw it last year. I think the conversation last year was, can they do it again?
Yeah.
Can, you went on a deep Cinderella run. Okay. It's not a Cinderella run anymore.
No, I think
We are
they've established themselves as a legitimate contender with the pieces that they've accrued over however many seasons of being okay, maybe, and to now, okay, we're locked in. We've made it, in twice in 2 years.
And if you're Florida, you have to think about Brandon Montour and Sam Reinhart getting paydays this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
This is your best chance. This is it. I look at the other teams that are remaining. I don't think any of them are juggernauts in the way that like Tampa was a juggernaut when they won their cups, or the way even Vegas was a bit of a juggernaut last year. I think there's going to be 4 high quality teams, and there will be a legitimately strong case for every single one of them to win the cup. You don't want to miss this year if you're Florida, and I've liked what I've seen from them, but I also think they've had I think both the East teams have had easier paths.
Oh, I think so too.
The Stars have gone through a bloodbath to get where they are, and we'll get to them.
Mm-hmm.
The Avalanche had a pretty tough second round to try to get through. They didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Canucks and Oilers, I guess there's a little bit of a softer thing there, but I still think either of those teams are stronger than Boston.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting to see how Florida and New York face each other, but I think Florida are looking at this as this has to be the year. And hey, so far so good.
Yeah, I agree. Like I think people with the New York series especially, I mean, people knew that Washington was a wash. They were going to get gentlemen swept if not swept. And then that's what happened. And then they moved on to face Carolina. And like it I don't know. It didn't it did click for Carolina for a moment. But and then so to have these two teams, the Rangers and the Florida Panthers together, you got the President's Trophy winner. And what I was getting to there was people were expecting the President's Trophy curse to rear its head, as it has many a time. If you somehow don't know what the President's Trophy curse is, whoever may be listening, you become just look at last year. Boston Bruins 65 game wins of 82, a record-setting regular season. And what do? They choke monumentally to the Florida Panthers, who made it to the Cup final that year in 7 games. You also did it at home, where you choked.
That's what the Bruins do, though.
Yeah.
I don't think we should look at this Bruins team much differently than we look at, like, the Leafs.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, they get farther before they fail. This team consistently wastes opportunities. And, I mean, we all looked at the roster this year and kind of went, who's playing center for you? And to their credit, they had some guys step up. I don't know if you can win in the National Hockey League without an elite center.
No.
I think that's very difficult to do. And as I look at all the teams that are remaining here, I don't think there's any of them that don't have an elite center.
Yeah, I mean, star power is a definite factor here. And like looking at some of these, your first line center is either Charlie Coyle or Pavel Zacha. And then, yes, your wingers are Brad Marchand and David Pastrnak. And like, I think even Morgan Geekie, he was beginning to show some flashes as well. But like, and then you look at the defense, Charlie McAvoy, cool, all right. Hampus Lindholm, all right, you're getting paid pretty well to do what you do. And then you see Parker Wotherspoon, who was called up from the AHL to compete. And who was the other one? Beecher, I believe, was also called up from the AHL.
He's on the forward side.
Yeah. So, and also Mason Lohrei. He also showed some pretty good flashes, but you're bringing these guys in to sort of, build a temper toward what will probably also continue to be playoff runs in the future. So you're getting some playoff experience to these other, and I look again at their forward line. Jacob Lauko, I believe entry level deal, if not, no, I suppose just 1 year. Jesper Boquist, Jake DeBrusk, uh, Danton Heinen. Like you're looking at some, and yeah, you did bring in some veteran pieces. You got James Van Riemsdyk, I believe, at the trade deadline, as well as Patrick Maroon. Uh, and
No, I
then
think JVR was a free agent signing.
it was.
JVR.
Oh, okay. Okay, so was it? It must have just been Maroon then that they brought in come what's it called? Come trade deadline. Because I know they
Yes.
didn't make a whole lot of moves. There was the rumbling of Olmark signing with the Kings, which didn't come to fruition. And I think Boston's all the more happy to do that as long as they can keep both goalies on. And I mean,
No, I think the deal was done with LA. I think Allmark nixed it.
really?
My understanding was Boston and LA had a deal in place, and Allmark went, "Yeah, no thanks."
Okay.
But I mean, that feels inevitable that he's going to get moved at some point.
Yeah, and as well, like going into the playoffs, like you have these two great goalies. You have Olmark and Swayman, and you alternate between the two, and then you only break that when it comes down to the playoffs. You play in the Leafs in round one. I think you start with Swayman, he does well, and then you switch over to Allmark, and then he doesn't do so well. And you're like, oh, okay, well, let's keep Swayman in net for the remainder. And that trend has continued. I don't think I've seen Allmark play a round two game. You can
No.
feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, and he's an RFA at the end of this season as well. So my money is that Allmark, it is nice. They are a great tandem, and Boston does have room to keep them both. We'll see what comes out. Swayman obviously looks to be like the number one starter for a while, but if they keep both of them on, they're still gonna have that great goaltending tandem. But as well, you can't break down goaltending during the playoffs. Like you said, they beat the Leafs in 7 in round 1, and then the goaltending regressed maybe a little bit. You started letting in goals that you can't really let in. And it's not like you were facing uh it's not like, well, Bob, I don't know. He's good. He won the Vezina a few times, so he's obviously good. And but yeah, you don't really have a star center in the way that Florida, can. And you both play this style that's like rough around the edges, jaded. You're taking the bad with the good, right? And Florida did out Bruins the Bruins, and there was quite a lot of controversy with that series as well. And Sam Bennett being the prime number one, public enemy number one in B Town, as he's been. And so yeah, if you're looking at this Florida lineup, you're like, okay, well, I don't think they can shed anyone. I think do they have enough room to keep some?
I mean, at the end of the day, there's also few players you aren't trading away to if you want to try to find room for those guys.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'd give Reinhardt what he wants. That
No.
feels like that could be a deal that ages very terrifyingly, especially if he were to go to a team where he's expected to be the only guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna lie. I think Calgary could do something very funny and reunite him with Huberdeau. And honestly, I think that could work.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a lot of money to invest on a could work.
Yeah, and I think we all know how the Huberdeau signing turned out. They invested a lot of money, and
They also
hasn't been good work.
They gave the money to a guy who puts up assists as his bread and butter,
Yeah.
and was like, "All right, well, what sniper am I going with?" And they just kind of look at him and shrug. Well, somebody.
We'll put you with Mangiapane.
You give him a 50 goal scorer, and all of a sudden, the best way to put it is he'll have no more excuses.
Yeah.
It'll be, we went out, we got you one of the guys who scored best in the league last year. Again, I don't think they do it. I don't know if you can convince Flames management to throw out $9 or $10 million on another former Florida Panther,
Mm-hmm.
but I would like to see it. Then you have a center. You could put him at center and have him and Kadri as your 1-2 if you want to go that way, and that feels like a very nice center group.
Mm-hmm.
Feels like a very playoffs center group too,
Yeah, it's
minus Kadri's affinity for crime.
yeah, playoff history. Um, yeah,
Playoff player,
yeah,
not a playoff performer for some reason, but playoff
yeah,
player.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I think that does look like a formidable center core, and it gives Huberto to make strides and sort of say, okay, well, now you have the tools, go do what you do, and if he doesn't, then you know it sucks. But also as well, like I think after their Cinderella run last year, Florida only wanted to keep adding pieces to those. So they went out, they got Buffalo Sabres legend Kyle Okposo.
I forgot he was in the playoffs.
Yeah. They got him. They got Tarasenko from Ottawa, who had already moved during the offseason. Did they pick up Oliver Ekman-Larsson this season, or has he been there for a while?
He was also a free agent signing.
Okay. Well, I don't think Florida wasted any time trying to pick out the puzzle pieces of which could help them become more successful in the year after they made it to the Cup final. I don't think, I don't imagine the GM or Paul Maurice made any, you know, like unscheduled stops. I think it was all gas, gas, gas. And they're like, okay, we'll sign this guy, this guy, this guy, and we'll temper them through the regular season or however many games left if at the trade deadline. And we'll see how they do. And I mean, Tarasenko's turned out okay. Okposo, I don't know.
And he has no points. I had to check because I forgot he was in the playoffs.
Okay.
But he is pointless, which explains why I don't remember him.
Yeah. And then Ekman-Larsson, I think he may have one or two. It's not many though.
I mean, I don't think you're also expecting a heck of a ton.
No.
So I guess I worded it wrong. Okposo has 0 goals. He has 2 assists.
Oh, okay. What line would he? I wonder if he'd be playing.
Oh, he would have to be
third or fourth
line, I would think.
Yeah.
They got a lot of UFAs too. As I'm looking at the cap friendly, they have a lot of guys, and not super high end guys for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, yeah. Look, I guess the cap friendly is a good way to do this. Sam Bennett, as you said, don't think, not that he doesn't deserve the payday that he should get, but if Florida wants to pay out that amount with the cap space they have remaining, Carter Verhaeghe.
He's up next. He's up next year too.
Oh, he's up next year. Okay. I think Verhaeghe's proven to be, well, he's good and he's clearly like a playoff kind of guy. Like he goes out and scores a bunch of OT winners last year and this year. I think he has maybe 1 or 2. So he's proven that he enjoys playoff hockey. And then like you look at your UFAs at the end of this season. Sam Reinhart. I don't see a reason why they can't keep him around, unless he's asking for like like Sam Bennett or what could end up being Matthew Tkachuk money.
Oh, he'll want Tkachuk money for sure.
Yeah,
if not more. I mean, the guy almost hit 60 goals.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna want to cash in. But I mean, the funny thing is, we're talking about it. I bet you they're not. They are not worried about any of what's happening here.
No, and I think they won't until either they get knocked out or they have the cup. Because right now, it's the same thing. They don't want to think about the contracts. They don't want to think about the money. They want to think about the game. And I mean, maybe some players are thinking about like, okay, well, like what is my future? I suppose. Like Tarasenko has been traded around. He signed with Ottawa in the offseason and then got traded at trade deadline to Florida. Like, I guess some of these older players and maybe some of the younger ones are like, well, what is my future with this team? And I think as long as they can keep some of them, I think Florida will be happy, and I think the players will be happy. But the likes of Bennett, the likes of some of these players, they can't afford to keep them. But I think Florida would really, really like to. So unless they can work some team-friendly deals, which doesn't seem to be the case anymore, I don't think many players take team-friendly deals unless they 100% love the team and want to stay. But I don't see that being the case for some of these guys.
And all that is to say, you better win now.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to miss. You don't want to try to get back here for a third year in a row. You better win now.
Mm.
Shall we move on? Or do you have anything else you'd like to wrap up on Boston, Florida here?
I mean, it's the same, right? Like you don't have star power. Your front centers or first centers are Charlie Coyle and Pavel Zacha. Who?
I think that's a little disrespectful to them. I think that's a little harsh.
Yeah. No, that's most definitely harsh.
Don't just 800 game veteran Charlie Coyle.
Yeah, Charlie Coyle. Who? No.
God, I hope Bruins Twitter goes after you.
Yeah.
We're not big enough for that yet, but I hope they come back. If we ever blow up, they come back and they're like, I wonder what first episodes are like, and then they see you slandered their god.
Well, they can join the Carolina fans. We'll talk about Carolina here in a moment.
Oh yeah, Carolina Twitter might get on me a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, they're gonna get on me for the round one. They're absolutely gonna dogpile me.
I mean, I think everything we said was right.
I think so too.
We kind of said that the first round was not a gimme because there are no gimmies in the playoffs, as Boston showed us last year with Florida.
Mm-hmm.
But it was as much of a you can't blow this as humanly possible.
Yeah.
I didn't blow it. Congratulations. You get to round two, and I go on record and say, this is your test. Can you ever do this?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is not even really that close.
No.
Sure, it ended in 6, but you had to force a comeback to avoid just getting swept off the planet. Like,
yeah. And I think people genuinely expected Rangers to go 8-0.
I mean, if you watch the first 3 games, I don't blame them.
Yeah. Really, though.
They just extended Rod Brindamore.
I saw that.
I don't disagree with.
4 or 5 years. I don't disagree with that either. I think that's a nice gesture. Like, he's clearly capable of outcoaching some teams. I don't know that the anomaly that the New York Islanders was, you could consider outcoached, considering Waugh wasn't in the whole series or the whole regular season, and so he didn't really have I don't think, at least, saw enough sample size to really put his mitts on the lines and whatnot and the chemistry.
I think he also turned that team around, though. I think you do got to give some credit to him as a coach.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, no, I'm not fully discrediting Waugh. I'm just saying that I don't think he had enough time to fully sink his teeth into this Islanders team that Carolina faced in round one.
But to speak on Carolina here as a team, what do you do from here? Yeah. Like, seriously, what do you do from here?
You sell off the parts that you can't keep, because there's a lot of them.
Have you heard their list of UFAs?
I'm staring at it right now.
You're staring. You got it up. Okay. So the reports that are coming out right now is they want Jake Guentzel long term.
Mm-hmm.
which stop.
Not
Don't do that.
surprising.
Don't do that. I want him back. And secondly, you're gonna have to make some real sacrifices to do it. I've heard a lot of, and I'm sure a lot of people here have heard quite a lot that Martin Nikash is a name that they're looking at moving,
Mm-hmm.
which is a little surprising to me. The guy did put up 71 points the year before this one,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, it shows you what teams think of Jake Gensel.
Yeah, I
And it shows you
mean,
that he's not a Crosby merchant like I've been telling people for years.
no. And I think he proved that by going to another team and still being a performer.
But like Pesci, Brady Shea, D'Angelo, Teuvo Teravainen, Stefan Nason, Jordan Martinook, who wears a letter for this team.
Mm-hmm.
If you're bringing back Gensel, I don't know that you can keep any of those players. I don't know that the cap's going to work for you to keep any of those guys around.
No. Um.
Because you also got to sign Seth Jarvis.
Mm-hmm.
This also feels like a team who had their best chance to win this year and didn't, again, get even remotely close.
No, they came back 2 games after Rangers went up 3-0, 3-0, and then they squandered it. And like you did build a contender, which is great. But now you busted. It's cup or bust, you busted. So now you got to sell off all the parts you can't keep. I guess the other question would be like if they want to keep Gensel long term, which I know you don't even relish the thought of that. Like
I don't want to think about
you
that.
don't want to think about that. Like what are the
He's coming back to Pittsburgh. Trust me,
he is. He's 100% coming back to Pittsburgh. There's no way he doesn't.
Clearly.
So I guess the way to put it would be like, who do you sell? Or no, I guess who do you sell isn't the right way to put it. Who do you keep if you want to re-sign Gensel long term?
I mean, I think you look at the roster and there's a couple names that are slam dunks.
Mm-hmm.
You hold on to Slavin. You extend that guy as soon as possible, especially if Pesci goes.
Mm-hmm.
I can't fathom the idea of them losing Pesci. That to me seems like it should be a non-option.
Mm-hmm.
You look at this roster, Freddie Anderson is still around next year. He's making 3.4.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love that. Dmitry Orlov makes just shy of 8 next year.
Mm.
Which that contract kind of baffles me.
A little bit.
It's just you couldn't have gotten him for 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
Give him 1 year, maybe. Even if you have to give him 8.5.
Well, how long was he signed for? Was it a 2-year
2-year deal?
Okay.
2 years, 7.75. I mean, you take his money, wipe it off the table, and all of a sudden you can afford Brett Pesci.
Mm-hmm.
Guy makes like $4 million, I think, is what his contract was on. So you give him a $4 million raise, you double his salary.
Mm-hmm.
Don't sign Orlov, you still have almost $4 million extra from where you would today. And I'm not even sure he would make 8, but that's like the most extreme example I could come up with.
Mm-hmm.
Evgeny Kuznetsov makes 4, or just under 4, more accurately. Don't love that. He was okay. He wasn't bad in Carolina.
No,
I just don't love that. Stahl makes 3. I don't love that, but he's your captain.
Mm-hmm.
And he signed longer term.
Yeah. Yeah, 3 years until UFA for Stahl.
I don't think you look at Aho or Spesh.
No.
Kotkaniemi, can you even get rid of him at this point?
Well, he signed 6 years until he's a UFA. He's making a little under 5, more like 4 3/4 plus change.
And guy didn't even put up 30 points.
No, but is he more of like? Is he more? I mean, he's also young. He's 23.
Yeah, but you're also trying to win a cup.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he's 23. You can also think about it. What? He was drafted, I think, 2019? It's been 5 years?
Kakanyemi? He was
Like,
drafted 2018 by the Habs.
2018. So it's been 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's young, but he's also been in the league for 6 years. He's making money that can go to extend proven players.
Mm-hmm.
If you can hand him away and not retain salary, I think you do that.
Yeah.
I think you hand him away if you have to. I don't think Carolina fans would disagree with me on that.
And also think his yearly, it's enough where if you can get away without retainment, like, yeah, I think he'd be a solid addition to whichever team.
I don't know how like Chicago's not like, yeah, we could use that guy.
Yeah,
Even if
or
you pay a little bit for him, if you're Chicago, I wouldn't mind that.
oh yeah. But I also think Chicago might still be trying to like work out through their system. Do you know what I mean? Like try to find some younger guys and then sign maybe veterans to teach those younger guys, as opposed to go out buying, a shiny center or a shiny defenseman or what have you.
Yeah, but at 23, I think you can make him part of that core.
Yeah, I think I can see Kakanyemi being
But
on
that's
like one of those teams. I mean, it's not going to make them a contender, I don't think. It'll make them slightly better, but I don't think, he would be the guy to turn around your whole team, right?
no, and I mean he's also for the same purpose, not a negative asset in Carolina by any means. I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I don't watch enough of their games. Hurricanes fans. I've seen some real passionate takes about Kakaniemi online.
Mm.
I just don't know if you can pay this player $5 million and lose guys like Nason, Teravainen, Pesci, and Shea.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know if that's a reasonable way to run your team.
Mm-hmm. Or, and then the next question would be, where do these other UFAs go that you don't sign, right? Because it's always, you're going to lose someone. You're guaranteed to lose someone, right? And whether it be a Nason, whether it be Teravainen, whether it be Martinook, Natchez, whoever, you're going to lose someone. And that's a guarantee. Or Pesci and D'Angelo or, Chatfield or Shea. You're guaranteed to lose someone. But you also don't know, like, which one got away. Do you know what I mean? You're not going to know unless, if, we'll say Natchez. He's an RFA, but if you jump ship to wherever and then he thrives, you're going to be like, oh, damn it, we should have signed him long term. Like, you're not going to know until the next season if one of the players who got away, you should have kept, right? And it's always a juggling act.
I think if you're worried about that, you're in the wrong industry, though. Like, I mean, in the case of them reportedly shopping around Natchez, I mean, again, the guy's put up 70 points in a season 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. You kind of know you're giving up a great player. He's also 25 and dropped by several dozen points year over year. He might just not fit in this lineup. You might make that sacrifice. I don't know that I would want to get rid of him myself.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's why I'm sitting in my basement.
Yeah.
And they're sitting in their general manager suites.
Yeah.
Carolina, looking at this team, there are a lot of guys here that are on not great deals. And I don't think I ever realized that till I'm looking at them now. But I mean, a lot of guys whose deals are like, at best, you're like, okay, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Jesper Fast making about 2.5. Yeah, okay, that's fine, I guess. Orlov felt like he got overpaid. Burns is still making 5.2, but I know he fit in really well here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, but Brent Burns is a beauty in here.
But even so, man, it's also 39.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have some questionable contracts. But I wonder if that was in the vein of stick these guys together, hope there's chemistry. So maybe they overpaid for some to entice them more to go to a team that maybe, wasn't on their, I guess not their list isn't the right word, but like who they were like, yeah, they were like, okay, well, if you pay me enough, sure, I'll come. And then they were like, okay, here. And they're like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm going to go play Carolina now.
Yeah, as I'm looking at this cap friendly, I am a lot more worried about this team than I thought I would be,
Mm-hmm.
which is good because I'm a Penguins fan. And
Yeah.
your failure is good for me. But also, I do kind of like you guys. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this team just wasted their biggest opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're going to get this good of a chance again. I really don't.
I think it's probably going to take a little while to, a recoup the losses and b build yourself up again to make the point. And I could be totally wrong. They could do just as well with the pieces they tore down and the pieces they acquired, right? They could do just as well. We don't know until next season's playoffs. But I think the Rangers, on the other hand, I think they'll do just fine where they're at. I don't think they have to tear down much, if anything.
I mean, Rangers, for what it's worth, look like a bit of a powerhouse right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to you how much you want to worry about them losing a couple games in a row. It's near the end of the series. I'm gonna choose to just say that eventually the other team's gonna win some.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot to like about this team.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, Blake Wheeler is healthy and ready to play. I don't know if he will.
I don't know if he will as well. Like,
I mean, don't get me wrong, NHL player,
mm-hmm.
probably I will say pretty confidently a top 12 forward on the team. I don't know how much I want to mess with what's happening right now.
Oh, I don't think you'd touch anything beyond like bringing in some like bottom six guys in and out.
Well, that's kind of I think where he would fall. But I mean, in my mindset, you're starting exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
You run into that series with the same roster. This team feels like they're going to be very hard to take down.
Mm-hmm.
Like top to bottom, the roster is very good. This team is rolling, and they seem like a team that play well with each other.
Yeah, there's no like obvious line which maybe does worse than the other. It's sort of they all play well where they're at.
Yeah, the team's got chemistry. It's a lot of the things that you look for in the team that gets hot on the right time and goes on that run.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. You got guys who are playing well together. You got guys who have the chemistry. You have the goaltending. You have the stars. Yeah, we talked about, I think there are three things you need to win the Stanley Cup. Three things you need. You need a high-end defenseman, a high-end center, and a goalie who can at least go hot for 2 months.
Hmm. They have
Mika Zibanejad, Adam Fox, Igor Shesterkin.
Yeah.
They have what I look at as like the three pillars of a team that can go on a run. That's not mentioning Panarin.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's not mentioning some other really good key pieces that they have, such as Panarin, maybe Trouba, and I think Keandre Miller's doing fairly well too. And then their backup goalie is Johnny Quick, who just got signed for another year, if I'm not mistaken, for about 1 point. However, I see 1.2 here on the cap friendly, but I think that was this year. I don't know, but anyway, Johnny Quick got extended, and he as your backup, and he's won 2 cups already, and so he has that experience. He knows what it takes to win, and that's only if Shesterkin ever goes cold, which he hasn't yet, at least, and I hope he doesn't.
I think also the effects of a backup goalie who knows that stuff stretches off the ice too.
Yeah.
That stuff's showing up in practice. That stuff's showing up in the locker room.
Oh, exactly.
there's a reason that he found work again, right? Like a lot of teams. I mean, they got Louis Domingue. Louis Domingue showed some signs of like that guy could probably be a backup. I'm a Penguins fan again. Trust me, I know.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you look at his numbers from last year; they weren't great. They were okay with Vegas. Oh, they were stinkers in LA. He was not good when they got rid of him. But all right, he kind of picked it up with Vegas, and he's got that knowledge and he's got that mentality. That stuff shows up in a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And man, as I'm looking at this team and as I'm looking at the bracket, I don't know if I think there's a team that can stop them.
I don't think so either. At least not in the East. The West could maybe be a different story.
I mean, to be fair, being the best team does not usually equal winning.
Yeah.
In this league, considering we talked about the President's Trophy curse like 15 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, this team is just. I don't want them to win because I'm a Penguins fan and I don't like them very much, respectfully.
Yeah.
But man, it feels hard
Yeah.
to not like everything I'm seeing here.
I know. Like, there's very hard to pick apart. I will say I adore Matt Rempe, and
I disagree.
really.
I thought we had this conversation off air. No,
Maybe we did. I don't know. I like him just because he's a villain, and it's really funny to see this rookie come in and like, challenge some of the bigger and the older veterans. He doesn't win a whole lot of fights, but
really doesn't.
I mean, at this point, he's already getting called for things because of reputation, and I just think it's funny.
He's entertaining, but I don't like him.
No.
He straddles. There's a line, right? There's a line between guys who kind of fight the mean fight and the axe wielding murderers of Raffi Torres past.
Right.
I think Rempe falls more under Raffi Torres than he does, say, modern day Marchand.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like it for player safety, but I can't lie, it's entertaining.
Yeah, and I mean, he's also young, like he's still working through his entry level. I think he could very well turn out to be a modern day Marchand. And I kind of hope he does because and I hope he does stay with the Rangers. I mean, if he moves, I'd probably follow him wherever he does. Just because of the entertainment factor. But like I don't know. I think it just gives this Rangers team more grit. Maybe not that it needs, considering you see Jacob Trouba throwing flying elbows every period, give or take. But I just think it gives you more grit. And if he turns out to be a modern day Marchand, well, you have the reputation. You got to back it up with points. You got to back it up with plays. And if he turns out that way, then it'll just only add to this formidability of this Rangers team.
Him and Trouba do give this team the snarl that I think they're going to need running up against Florida. I think you're going to see Rempe in a bigger role than he's been in.
Oh, I think so too.
Especially if we see something like Sam Bennett and Marchand happen.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw, and for people who are newer to the league, they may not remember this, but a couple years back, Tom Wilson just bodied Panarin to end the year. And it kind of broke the Rangers a little bit.
Would that have been their 2018 run?
No, I don't think they made the playoffs that year. I want to say.
So it was a regular season thing,
or it was like end of the playoffs or something. But they fired management over it. Like it turned into a mess.
Really.
And the owner didn't really like the comments that were happening, and it was kind of a change of how the entire organization functioned.
Oh.
And I think you're seeing guys like Rempe be the result of that, but also not in a bad way.
Yeah.
Like, if this is what it is, that's not too bad. It was 2021 is when it was.
Okay.
And, like, Wilson really does just ragdoll a guy because it's not a fair fight.
No.
And you got Wilson, and he's got his jersey off, and he's doing this in the penalty box, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
he did the same thing to the Penguins. Let me tell you. Why do you think we got Ryan Reeves? But I mean, I think the Rangers adjusted that and took it in a modern way, where the
Mhm.
Penguins went, I don't know, here's Ryan Reeves. We're not going to play him. Cool.
Yeah, they sort of like they betted with the veteran, I suppose, as opposed to maybe against them, and they were like, okay, if we need snot, let's get this guy who's proven to be snotty and realistically not much else.
I mean, it's why they have Trudeau.
Yeah.
It's why. I mean, Ryan Lindgren is a tough customer.
Mhm.
You don't want to mess with that guy. You got Rempe. Barclay Goodrow is a little less of a violent guy and more of a grind you into the boards guy, but he still follows that. Matchup wise, I like what this team has created for themselves. And I think they have enough grit to go up against any of these teams left.
Yeah. Which is why I figure they're gonna. Well, they're my pick in the East to win. And I suppose with that, we'll move on to the West.
Dallas, Colorado.
Do I have to talk about it?
Oh yeah, you sure do,
Yeah,
buddy. Go
I
right ahead.
do.
You got this one.
So my team is out against a really, really tough Dallas team. I mean, Avs, they have the star power, at least up front. I hesitate to say that now in goal, though. I think they could have give Onwin a shot to at least in one game to see how he performed. But I beyond game one, the obvious game one, man, we just got bodied and bodied over and over again. Because they kept out, they kept the stars away from the net. And, there was a few interesting ones from their defenders. Like looking at this breakdown, Colorado won 4-3 in overtime in game one. Games 2, 3, and 4, Dallas took with 4+ goals, and Colorado only scored one of them in game 3 and 4, and then 2 additional ones in game 2. We got absolutely bodied. And then when the back was against the wall, they won again 4-3 in regulation for game 5, and then double overtime, which I think it should have just been the one overtime. There's the whole thing about goaltender interference. We could probably make a whole episode out of, some of these, let's call them interesting calls that have transpired, at least in this season, this playoff.
I'm not sure we can because we don't know the rule.
I don't think anyone knows the rule. Yeah, exactly. It probably should have ended in the first overtime, but Dallas just went out and got the second one. Matt Duchene, drafted by Colorado. I mean, it's cinema, right? And in what part of the playoffs isn't? There's not many, but Dallas just looks strong, and I think some of their youngins are really, stepping up their game when it matters most. And I think, but also that's to say, the roughness that the Avs have gone through. Like, you lost your point leader for the playoffs for something which we probably won't get into.
I don't think there's anything to get into.
No.
We don't know the story.
Exactly. But regardless, you lost your points leader, so that's already a blow. Sure, you had Drouin came back, which is great. Is not enough. And then you came against Jake Ottinger when your 2 goaltenders are Georgiev, who has been known to be hot and cold, seemingly now more cold than hot. against Jake Ottinger, and then Eustace Onuin, who I believe just got signed maybe for another year or two as well. I still think you should have given him a shot, but you didn't, and you lost in 6. I don't know. I don't know that I have much more to add, just because I'm biased, obviously, because my team got kicked, right?
Yeah, but as a Colorado fan, what do you want to see happen now?
What do I want to see happen? I don't think Bednar deserves to get the boot. I wouldn't be surprised if it happens, but I don't think he should. I think he has built a solid team, mostly all round. You also were hampered by the fact Landeskog wasn't in the playoffs, but he's been out for a while now with, he's been on IR for a lot now, and people were like, "Oh, is he gonna come back this off season?" And then he didn't, which I don't think is surprising at all.
I think he'll play again, but
I definitely think he'll play again, but and even if he did come back, I honestly don't think he would have done much of anything, just because he's been out so long.
Yeah, he's not going to be an impact player for a while, for sure.
No. Yeah, I don't think Bednar should get the boot. Nichushkin, I don't know. I mean, what happened, but if this is going on, this is the second year in a row where this, a similar situation has happened. I don't know that you keep him. I'd hate to see him go, but I don't know that you keep him.
The other problem is you might not be allowed to get rid of him.
No, that's the thing.
I will be curious how the league tries to handle that matter.
Yeah.
I mean, he's out till I think it's either November or December.
It'd be October, give or take. That would be the 6 months from the day. It could be longer. I don't know.
And again, yeah, they have to reinstate the guy. It's not like, oh, you served for 6 months, he's back. How do you even have an off season when you don't know what your salary cap's going to be for the next year?
Yeah.
You got what, $6 million in him. Landeskog, I think, makes $7 million, and it does seem like he's slowly coming back.
Yeah, I think he's poised to come back, but he even if he did join this playoff season, he was not going to make much of an impact. He would have had a goal, but that would have been like, the Cinderella one.
Well, I also even just mean in the sense of like next year you're working with like what, $83-84 million, but there's $13 million that you don't know what it means.
Yeah. And
are those guys? I mean, I think that she's going to play at some point.
Yeah.
But will Gabe?
Yeah, there's a lot of unknowns going into the off season. I think Avs made out like bandits at the trade deadline. They got Middlestad. He's proven to be a solid second line center, which is a key piece you really needed once Landeskog was out. Drouin was a great off-season signing, and I pray that you keep him.
I think that'll happen. I think both sides want that to happen too much.
Yeah, I think that was too great. And I mean, they were both Mooseheads together, and I believe the Memorial Cup together. I think
yes, they did.
I think that's too good of a pairing, just because the amount of plays that I've seen that they've set up, whether it be McKinnon to Drouin or Drouin to McKinnon, and then ends up in the back of the net more often than not on some of their set plays. I think you don't want to break up that chemistry. Middlestad, I'd like to see kept. I don't know that he'll ask for a huge payday. Because, he's brought over the trade deadline, hasn't had a solid enough sample size with the Avs, at least. He's played with Buffalo for at least a while now, I think. But I don't think he'll be asking, at least I hope he won't be asking for, big paycheck. Cogliano, he's 36, a UFA. I don't think he's doing much of anything. Duhaime, 26. Either or, you could let him walk or You can hang him around. Kiwi Ron.
Kovalenko, I think, is someone to be excited for.
Mm-hmm.
That guy, I think, is going to be an immediate difference maker for you guys next year.
Yeah. Yakov Trenin, I thought he did good work where he was. Yeah, he wasn't invisible, but I think he did well enough. I think you also keep Sean Walker. I think that was again. I still think that Avs made out like bandits. Sean Walker being one of those grabs from the trade deadline. I thought he did fine enough work. Maybe he could have put up more points, but your top line is set as Devon Taves and Cale Makar. You're not changing that for anything. Your
His
second
playoff
line,
stats are ugly.
Sean Walker's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
11 games, -5. Nothing else worth writing home about except for his 6 penalty minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I like that trade for Colorado. I know you had to dump Johansson's deal too. You give up a first for that.
Mm.
I don't love that. But I mean, he's worth hanging on to if you can get him for like $2.5 million.
Yeah, if you can get him for a solid enough price, I think he's 100% worth hanging on for. And also with that stat line, I don't think he'll be asking for a heap more than that. At least I hope not.
I mean, also though, if I was agent, I'm going, you paid a first-round pick for us.
Yeah.
You want us. Give me 4.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. Goaltending. Onwin proved to be solid enough when Georgiev wasn't feeling it. And maybe you do move on from Georgiev in this offseason. I won't say that I'll be shocked if you do either or. But I think he's been the Avs goaltender for a few seasons now, at least, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it's 2.
Okay, so it's been 2 years. It's the same with some of these teams. You have the forwards that can outplay the bad goaltending, and when he's hot, he's hot. Then you have a built team, but you're also relying on him to become, to warm up, right? To sort of outplay some of these teams, and then also hope that your offense is generating. But that all sort of stops when you go against a team that's not maybe goaltending first, but that they have a really solid option in net, and then because they paid up front for that solid option, that starter, and then maybe they have an okay backup, and that plan or that attack of going in with your offense first sort of crumbles if that elite goaltender is hot. And they went up against Jake Ottinger, who I'm pretty sure is probably one of the best. Maybe not. I won't say to ever do it, but I think he's up there. I think comparing to some of the older goaltenders, at least, like the Hall of Famers and whatnot. But he's great.
One of the best to ever do it is a take.
Is that a take?
I think that.
I don't think so.
You think Jake Ottinger is one of the best goalies in NHL history?
No, I meant like he could.
Could be. Yeah, okay. I can say there's some potential for that.
I don't mean he's like prime Luongo or he's not prime Wah. Definitely not. Or Brodeur. But I think he could he could begin to make an argument possibly soon.
I mean, this year wasn't his best year, but if he can go out and win the cup and steal them a cup, okay, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
Regular season, forgotten.
Yeah. Do you have anything more to add on this matchup?
The last thing I'll say about the Stars, because I don't think there's a whole lot more to say about the Avs till we get a little deeper in the off season.
Mm-hmm.
This team, I think, nails a lot about how teams want to build rosters. They got the great goaltender. and he's young, which is always nice. You go and you look at the defense core. They've got a heck of a top four, including Heiskanen, who's still young, Lindell, who's, kind of in the middle, and he'll need to be paid not this year, but next year. That'll be interesting. You got the veteran in Ryan Suter. You got the young guy coming up in Thomas Harley. A lot of things to love there. Tanev has been unbelievable for these guys. You want to talk about making out like bandits. They made out like bandits getting Chris Tanev. Forward core, again, they've got that snarl. They've got Jamie Benn. They've got Marchment. I like a lot what they got. They got the young guys, like they got Wyatt Johnson. They have Rupe Hintz, who is probably still underrated. Like, that guy's really good. Jason Robertson can't be understated. This team, like I said at the start of the show, every single team that's here has such a real argument to be here. I love the way this team has constructed themselves. And they're probably my pick out of the West, regardless of how tonight goes.
Well,
also, the Avs suck, and you should feel bad.
Okay, Penguins fan.
Can't get your heart broken in the playoffs.
If you're not in them,
don't even make them.
There we go. Speaking of tonight, as we said off the top of the show, this episode is being recorded pre-Game 7 of Vancouver Canucks and Edmonton Oilers. It'll probably come out after the fact, and I'll probably have, the graphic on screen of the winner of it.
You better be editing it over where my hands are. I'm gonna look really stupid. I'm trusting you here.
Well, I may.
That doesn't fill me with confidence.
No.
All right.
Oh, come on! You're gonna give me a chance to make an ass out of you.
That's what I'm here for. I'm here to make an ass out of me. I don't need you to do it.
Well, I know, but it's only funnier if someone else gets to do it too. Anyhow,
I'm doing myself.
So yes, recorded before. It's in 7 hours. My computer screen says Edmonton and Vancouver. Do we do both sides? Because I think it's Game 7. It's either way. It's a game decider.
Do you want to just talk about kind of both teams?
Yeah.
Like we don't gotta fake like, oh, you won, because like knowing us, we're gonna do that, and then the Game 7 will be the craziest thing that's ever occurred.
Oh, of course.
Wow, they missed that. If we just do it generally, and we can kind of talk about where both these teams are, because I think they're on similar-ish trajectories in a lot of ways. I look at the way that these two rosters are. Edmonton, you can't wait anymore.
No.
You cannot wait any longer. This is it. I said it about a couple teams, and I'm saying it even more about you. You can't screw this up. You can't not win. They've got everything on their side, minus goaltending, because the goaltending is a heck of a question.
Yeah, it's questionable.
We've seen that a lot of teams find their success when they fire a coach. Again, I'm a Penguins fan. Believe me, I know about it. We won 3 of our cups in history have come pretty much directly off the heels of kicking someone out of the arena and onto the street.
Yeah.
So you fire the coach, which poor Woodcroft, man. That guy deserved better than what he got. If they have average goaltending, he's probably still on this team. Like, honestly. You got 2 of the greatest players in the world. You have Zach Hyman scoring at a clip that you cannot guarantee he will ever score it again.
Yeah.
I think Hyman's at least a 35 goal scorer at this point. I think you can kind of attribute the rest of his goals however you want to, and I wouldn't really argue with you. But, he might never score those numbers again. You have, Matthias Ekholm, who's been playing really good, but he's only getting older. You have Darnell Nurse, who, man, if you could undo one thing, if you could undo single thing, I'm pretty sure it's that.
Yeah.
I just look at this roster, and it's kind of wild how old they are. Like, they don't feel like they should be an old team.
No, but they're on the older side.
Evan Bouchard's still super young, and he's been great these playoffs. Dylan Holloway's still pretty young. He's looking really good. That's it as far as young guys go. The rest of them are fairly old. I mean Broberg, but I don't think Broberg's all that much. I
You
don't think.
do have Skinner.
Yeah, but is
Sitting at
he an
25.
NHL starter? Are
Yeah.
we confident saying that right now?
Yeah. I mean, that is the question. So you're well, you did Pickard for both game 5 and 6? May have just been game 6.
Just game 5. Because then they went back to Skinner for game 6 and everyone kind of went, why? And then it worked.
Okay.
Here's another stat I'll point out to you. McDavid and Draisaitl are 27 and 28.
Mm-hmm.
Draisaitl's contract ends in 2026. McDavid's in 2027.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, 2026, that's far away. This is not as far away as you would like it to be.
No, definitely not. And now you're staring down the barrel of re-signing in modern day one of the greatest centers to ever do it.
I don't think McDavid's numbers is going to go up as much as we think it is.
No, I think he's probably plateauing more than, continuing to rise.
Well, I also think that guy just wants to win.
Yeah.
That guy could probably make $17 million, and I'd be like, yeah, okay. I think he'll come in around 14.
Yeah.
Retake the highest mantle. Draisaitl makes 8.5.
Mm.
You think that guy's not making at least 12.5? And don't forget, you have to pay Connor Brown $3 million next year because he played over 10 games. Because that was the whole contract thing of like, you can just send him down after 9 games and you don't have to pay him the money. They didn't, and he put up 12 points in 71 games, and you're paying $3 million next year for that. Oof! I don't know what you're doing there.
I see he's a UFA on.
Yeah, but it's like a bonus in his deal.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So he signed like it was near league minimum, but it had that $3 million
Oh,
bonus
I
if
see.
he played the game. So he'll get that next year because they couldn't pay that this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's so you're gonna have $3 million less to work with next year, and then you have to start talking to Leon, and after that, then you have to start talking to Connor.
Yeah.
And Kane's 32, Nuge is 31, Darnell Nurse is 29, Ekholm's 33, CC and Kulak are 30. Like, I don't know what you're gonna do here.
Yeah, you don't know what you're gonna do unless you go and win.
Oh, and also Jack Campbell signed until 2028.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that.
Mm-hmm. For $5 million. AHL goaltender, by the way. That's mean.
I think he'll be back in the NHL.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll be what he was, but he'll be back. But like, this team is older than we think it is. You look at the UFAs. Brown's 30, Sam Carrick 32, Warren Fogel's only 28. That's not bad. Gagne keeps ending up with this team because it's funny. He's 34, Henrique's 34, Janmark's 31, Perry's 39.
Perry's staring down the barrel of 40.
I mean, that doesn't seem to matter to him.
Nope.
He just kind of seems to just keep going, and I respect it. Incidents with the Blackhawks aside.
Yep.
You know, maybe that's the theme of these playoffs. Maybe it is. But the only teams that I look at and don't say you have got to do this now are the Stars and Canucks. And it's not like, oh, those are two teams with rich cup-filled histories.
Mm.
You know, Vancouver's never won. But those are the only two teams I look at and I'm like, yeah, you have time. You have time to work with this. You have time to figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
Edmonton might be the worst of the bunch, though.
Yeah.
Because we know how passionate Leon and Connor are.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys want to win. And maybe you look at it and you go, hey, guys, we almost made it to the third round this time. We've made it to the third round in your existence. We're getting somewhere. And maybe that's enough for them. Maybe it's not. And if one of those guys walks, oh, boy, this team's in some trouble.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be like a field day to see who tries to move around their rosters. I mean, Draisaitl seems like the more likely candidate, at least in the nearer future, than McDavid. To move if he does, which I don't think he will. But like, honestly, I think it would be interesting to see just what teams would be willing to give up for the likes of a Draisaitl putting up these
I don't
numbers.
think it's a trade. I don't think they trade them. I think it's that they walk in free agency. I think if they're leaving, it's a John Tavares situation.
Okay.
At least, yeah, the only because like think about it. If you make a comparison, let's ignore Leon for half a second here and look at Connor.
Mhm.
The Shohei Ohtani situation with the Angels, I think, is the only comparable you're ever gonna have.
Mm-hmm.
And they made the decision of like, we can't give this guy up. You just can't. Which, firstly, couldn't have worked out worse for them.
Yeah.
But I think that's the mindset that these teams are going to have. If there's a sliver of a chance you can be good one last time with Connor McDavid will play out that season in Edmonton, and you'll figure out the rest later.
Mm-hmm.
And realistically, I don't really think either of them leave. Let me just get ahead of that. Let me get ahead of that before people come at us and call me dumb. Well, firstly, yeah, you're right. But like, also, I suspect at least Connor stays.
Mm-hmm.
Leon, I think, is the one who would move if any of them were to. I think he probably also stays. But you can't work with they'll probably stay. That's
Yeah.
just, if that's your mentality, you should not be in the job. Win now, and I guarantee you both of them sign contracts. You win a cup, they will put their signature on that contract as fast as they legally can.
Yeah.
And if you don't, they also have a second, a fifth, and 2 sixths this year in the draft.
Interesting.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Year after, they have a first, a third, and a sixth and a seventh. You have no picks.
Yeah.
So you have no, it's going to get harder other than having your firsts in 25 and 26. You don't have a whole lot you can trade. I think Henrique was a solid enough get. Ekholm, again, has been a phenomenal acquisition from Nashville. That one has been great.
Mm-hmm.
Go win. Please.
And I guess on the other side of the coin would be Vancouver.
I think we should probably start with Vancouver and acknowledge Brock Besser,
mm-hmm.
who I assume you saw the news around him.
That he's out.
He's out for the playoffs with blood clots.
Yes, I did see that.
That guy has been through a ton already. He has kind of finally refound his form with this team.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe, that this is a star player in the National Hockey League, and he's finally getting the opportunity to really play and produce, and something like that happens. Gut wrenching. It is.
Yeah.
It's so crappy for him, and I do feel bad for him as a team. Also, just brutal to
Mm-hmm.
lose a guy like him in the most important game that your franchise has had in a decade.
Yeah.
I also think, regardless of this, the Vancouver Canucks have to be beyond thrilled. Like, you got to remember with the Canucks, the conversation has been for a couple years, what on God's earth are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
What is wrong with you? And they brought in Jim Rutherford, and as a Penguins fan, I laughed my head off. And then he tried to give us JT Miller, and we didn't do it, and we all went, oh my God. And then JT Miller became really good for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
We questioned a lot of what was happening. I mean, you look through the roster, right? I mean, Connor Garland was a part of the OEL trade. Still don't know what the plan was there. Dylan Gunther would probably look really good in this roster. You know, they went out and got guys like Teddy Bluger, and a lot of people went, okay. And the Elias Lindholm deal looked like it was going to be a real disaster for a while.
Yeah.
That's kind of worked itself out. They brought in guys like Zadorov. They've turned Myers into an NHL defenseman again, like to the point where no one really complained about his contract. Philip Hronik, that deal was bizarre. I didn't know what was going on there. And he hasn't had a very good playoffs. But, you kind of saw the vision this year. You
Mm-hmm.
kind of saw what they were trying to do. Everything about this team has been, this team is run so terribly. They got out from Jim Benning, and they put themselves into an even bigger hole. The Bruce Boudreau saga can't be forgotten. What they did to him to replace him with Rick Tocchet. And to which a lot of people went, cool. Rick Tocchet, and he's done a solid job all around.
Mm-hmm.
This team has been from day one proving a lot of people and proving me wrong at every turn. I thought they might sneak into the playoffs. I thought Demko would recover, and they got stars. I was like, yeah, they could sneak in with like a 45 win season.
Mm-hmm.
This organization has changed the narrative on the flip of a coin.
Mm.
You know, no Canuck fan is going to feel this way if they lose tonight. You're running on house money, guys. If you can keep moving at least somewhat forward, this is a core they can win a Stanley Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Bring back a guy like Lafferty. Rob the Leafs blind on that trade. You know, add a couple depth guys. The defense is probably going to get an overhaul, but honestly, I'm okay with that because there'll be a lot of older guys that are going.
Mm-hmm.
Try to keep Zadorov, but do not give him 6x6. That is ludicrous.
Yeah.
That him wanting that, I don't listen. I'm not ever gonna blame a player for wanting money. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Give him like 4x5, and at least then the deal's over before he's in his mid to late 30s.
Mm-hmm.
6x6 is a little much, but like this team has fundamentally changed the way we talked about them because they did a bunch of things that we all said that's never gonna work,
Mm-hmm.
and it worked.
Yeah. It seems like this was the conversation also around the Winnipeg Jets last postseason. Made a bunch of changes. Is it going to pan out? They made the playoffs. They got dropped in the first round. But the conversation again was also about Vancouver. And Vancouver has proven to be, there's a method to the madness, I guess is a good way to put it. There clearly was some kind of method, considering they're staring down a possible conference final for the first time in a while. Another thing you could add to that is promote Shilovs to backup potential, if not maybe a tandem with Demko.
I don't think you're there yet. I think he's still got too much to prove before you're there, but he's definitely the number 2 goalie on the roster. Has to be.
Yeah, and then drop to Smith. DeSmith 32 UFA. Let him walk. Put Shilovs in.
And DeSmith's been great too. Let's not dismiss.
Yeah, no, I'm not dissing
DeSmith what he's done. But like that is the other thing about this team. They've done this without Demko.
Yeah,
that's wild.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. You beat Nashville without Demko. Very impressive. Good job. You took Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl to 7 games.
Mm-hmm. With a what was an AHL goaltender.
I mean, people who follow like IHF hockey knew about this guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's going to be an NHL goaltender.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I would not have projected this soon. Like, to this soon turn around and win an NHL playoff series, never would have gone there.
Yeah. Well, surprise. The Latvian wonder.
And yeah, I think the advanced analytics crowd is going to look at this team and go, hey, they're due for a regression.
Mm-hmm.
They were also due for a regression all year.
Yep. That didn't
happen.
I'm
a big believer in advanced stats, and I'm sure this is something that'll come up somewhere along the lines. I also recognize that it has its flaws, and there are certain teams that break the stats. Mm-hmm. The Florida Panthers last year, if you've ever seen the deserve a win-o-meter, their deserve to win-o-meter was 35% every night in the playoffs. And it was just oh, well, Leafs fans, you should have won all 5 games. And it's well, sick, you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
This might be one of those teams. Or they might be a team that's going to fall down a little bit next year, but you have some of the room to actually improve the squad in the offseason. This is going to be an interesting season because, again, I look more at the defense core. I think the forward core is fairly locked in. You have 3 defensemen listed on the main roster under contract, which is Quinn Hughes, obviously awesome, Carson Soucy, and Noah Juulsen. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That is going to be fascinating for this team to watch. Hronix RFA, and then Cole, Friedman, Myers, and Zadorov are all UFAs. The defense core is probably going to be overhauled by the end of this, but like, I like what this team is bringing.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I think if Alvin can keep moving this team in the right direction, you guys will be in a cup final soon.
Well, they could
Also,
be in a cup final like in 2 weeks time.
in 3 weeks from now.
In 3 weeks from now, they could very well be in a cup final, but we shall see.
I can't believe we're seeing Game 7 between probably Stuart Skinner and Artur Silvovs. And I can't believe that the favorite of the goaltenders is Silvovs.
Is Sheila? Yeah. It's gonna be an interesting one, and I believe it's not at a ludicrous time now for our time zone. It's not. It's at 10 p.m. our time, so
That's not bad.
This it should be an entertaining watch, and I will guarantee that I'll tune in.
It's been a good series of just taking turns punching each other in the face for 60 straight minutes.
Oh yeah, and
Metaphorically,
then
though.
Yeah, and then you also look at like the Vancouver Nashville series, and it's like what one of those games had tied for the least amount of shots taken, and so like you can clearly see that Vancouver's it's it's the offense versus defense, right? A good offense can be defense, and a good defense can be an offense, or however that thing works out. You know what I mean?
That's almost the same.
It's almost the same. It's clear that Vancouver, they have the pieces to score goals. They just signed Pettersson for $11.6 million for it was 8. And he got called out the other night, I believe, to put it in. And I mean, if you're making that money, you should.
I love when coaches do that if you do it right.
Yeah. Well, and I also think back to like the Pasternak call out from
exactly what went to my mind.
Yeah, it's like, and then you score the OT winner. Like it's cinema, and a lot of the playoffs are. And I think tonight's game is gonna be cinema, probably no matter how it goes down.
Or it's like an 8-1 beatdown.
Or it's an 8-1 beatdown. I really hope it's not.
I would agree with that.
I suppose. Well, should we almost like guess do like a
predictions?
Yeah, we may as well if the game's
I get that stuff out of it. They ain't paying us nothing.
No,
I am not promoting sports betting.
I'm gonna censor that in the edit.
Fat pig. Yeah, gotta censor what I said too. They're gonna wonder what the hell we've said because we've already cursed several times and it's gone through. So like, what came out of their mouth?
Yeah.
Trust me, it's bad.
It's bad. Do not
you heard
worry.
You heard me mention sports betting. You can put the rest together.
Yeah, exactly. Predictions. Does it go to overtime? Yes or no?
No.
I also don't think so.
Oh, I thought you were just doing like score and like game-winning goal. I didn't know we were going through like situations.
Well, we'll do score after. I think it's
okay.
It's more in depth because then I have more to put in the edit. Doesn't go over at our time. Both say no. Okay, I guess the score then.
that was very in depth. Can I just say?
I know, very in depth.
I am going to break this down by its goaltending.
Mm-hmm.
Does each team have the pillar? Edmonton has McDavid. They have Evan Bouchard. They don't have a goalie. Vancouver, Pettersson, Hughes. They don't have the goalie. Mm-hmm. They've got the hotter goalie, but I don't think they have the goalie.
Mm-hmm. Actually, was it announced who's starting tonight?
It'll for Edmonton, I don't know, but I don't think there's a chance you go back to Skinner for game 6 and then shift back to Pickard for game 7. Yeah. I don't think that makes any sense. So I don't know if it's been officially announced as the time of the recording, or maybe it was announced during the recording and then therefore we haven't seen it.
I'm gonna check it right now. Just in case.
I don't mind being wrong about this because I think the whole world will agree with my reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
Silovs is the hotter goalie. And I think that's going to be the difference.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take Vancouver 5-3 with the game-winning goal going to Dakota Joshua.
Dakota Joshua.
I've
So
loved his playoffs.
per an insider, no change to Oilers, and Shelovs does start for the Canucks
Yeah, I
with
mean,
Lafferty and Mikhaev replacing Besser and Podkolzin.
Colson's out. Interesting.
Oh no, he's in.
Or he's
He's replacing Sam Lafferty and Mikhaev. Oh no, sorry, Lafferty and
no. I was
Mikhaev.
gonna say
Yeah, no,
she said. Oh, so you
no,
said Besser. Yeah.
yeah, what you said makes sense. And then no changes for the Oilers. Knobloch said Adam Henrique will not play Game 7.
Ooh, that sucks. Man, you talk about a guy that needs to put up some cinema tonight. Ilya Mikheyev has not been good
Mm-hmm.
in Vancouver. He needs something tonight. They need a big performance out of him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think I'm taking, and I'm not super confident on this call. Like,
Mm-hmm.
both of these teams can win, and I'd be so unsurprised. But I will take Vancouver 5-3. I think Stewart's going to give up a real stinker. That's just going to kill momentum. And I think Dakota Joshua is going to have the dagger that ends the series, and then probably like an empty net or something to make it 5.
Mm-hmm. But like the game winner, the backbreaker, Dakota Joshua.
The official game winning goal, so the 4th goal out of the 5-3.
Okay. I think it's going to be a 1-goal game.
You think it's going to be close? I mean, mine could still be, but yeah.
I think, going based off of like the previous, it has been Game 1, 5-4 Vancouver, Game 2, 4-3 Edmonton in overtime, Game 3, 4-3, Game 4, 3-2, Game 5, 3-2, and then Game 6 the other night was 5-1. So there's only been one that have been more of a blow than others. The rest have been 1-goal games. I think that's going to continue. I think it's going to be a 1-goal game. I think Vancouver's going to take it too. Prove me wrong, Edmonton. We shall see. Okay, actually, you know what? So Dakota Joshua gets it for Vancouver. Say the Oilers win. Who do you reckon grabs it?
Zach Hyman.
Zach Hyman, right in front.
That guy just has the knack for getting the goal when you need it. Say what you. People can argue with me about his skill level all day long.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. The guy's got the clutch level.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the most clutch guys in the playoffs. It'll be him if it happens.
Okay.
And again, I won't be surprised if it happens.
Yeah. So
don't kill me, Twitter.
So it's going to be a 1-goal game is my prediction. I'm reckoning Pedersen's going to answer the call and get the backbreaker. I reckon it worked in Boston. Pedersen's being paid the money for a reason. I think he goes out and proves it tonight, and I think Vancouver takes it. We'll say 3-2.
3-2, okay. Yeah, I don't think the goalies are going to make quite enough saves for 3-2, but
no,
you never know.
You never know. Imagine it comes out 9-1. That's going to be.
I can't wait for it to be 1-0.
Yeah, it could very well be 1-0, but no, I think it's going to be 1-goal game. I think it's going to be 3-2 Vancouver. And if it goes the other way and Edmonton wins, Hyman's not a bad option. I'm going to say Bouchard is going to grab it.
I thought about both Bouchard and Nurse, but I feel like it's Hyman.
Yeah. And we shall see.
You'll know. You will know by the time you listen to this, unless you are the fastest editor on planet Earth. You will know by the time that you listen to this how incredibly incorrect we both are.
Yeah. We shall see. I mean, it's just the way this industry is, right? You talk about something and then immediately the other thing happened.
This is one of the few industries where being right kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, you can be wrong, and it's like, all right, yeah, cool. Like, as long as you're not, like, unreasonable. Like, if I come out here and I'm like, you know what? I think Dakota Joshua's better than Connor McDavid, so he'll score. As long as I'm not saying that, like, okay,
Yeah.
like, fair enough.
Well, you did just say that, though. Uh-oh.
Come at me on Oilers Twitter. I'm ready.
And with that,
you can't even find my Twitter.
you can't even no.
Can't wait for it to just like appear on the bottom of the screen.
Oh, exactly. That's exactly what I'm gonna do.
You have to find my Twitter first.
I think I can do that.
Probably. It's not. I'm not here hiding it by any means.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, you know what? I think we'll probably end up making one. So if you disagree with anything we say, it's bound to happen. We're not very likable people.
Care.
A, we don't care.
So
B,
we're not likable people.
yeah.
Don't tell people that. That's not how they watch us.
I don't. Well,
Hey, we're two guys that talk about hockey, and also you hate us. Watch our stuff.
Okay, well, we've already made enemies of Carolina fans.
I think Carolina fans know that we're right, though. I don't think they're actually going to be that mad at us.
You don't think that?
No, I don't. At least not at me. Maybe at you. I
Yeah,
feel like everything I've said, Carolina fans would probably agree with me on.
It's fine. I will 100% take all the smoke from anyone. I don't care. So
Rangers fans and me are probably not going to get along, but you know what?
No.
I respect the Rangers while I don't like them, so
that's fair. I don't respect Carolina. See, I'm just, I'm digging myself a hole.
Here's his Twitter.
Yeah, here's my Twitter, and here is the show's Twitter, which will exist. We've said it. It will exist. Feel free to add us there. I'm sure we'll have plenty to say. Well, yeah, again, if you want to give us smoke on Twitter. There should also be 2 more episodes after the one you're watching this, one where we went over the round 1 preview or the round 1 results, and the other where we talk a little bit about ourselves and our teams and probably a whole host of other stuff.
Sure, these 3 drop at the same time. After that, we're going to try to get into a weekly groove. Probably not same day.
No.
Like, it's not... Like, I don't think we can promise you, like, this is coming on Tuesdays or anything like that, because I work in events and he works in radio, and I also kind of do work in radio, which are the 2 worst scheduling industries you will ever work in your entire life.
Yeah, so nothing's going to be concrete. They'll come out when they'll come out. We're not going to forget about you. Ryan's dad and my mom probably.
I have several friends from my Instagram story that are probably tuned in right now. Hey guys, you're appreciated. You're appreciated.
There we go. A whole 1 extra person and 2 bots.
They don't know anything of what we're talking about.
No.
They're just here for moral support.
For moral support. Okay, that's fine. And yeah, so with that, there's 2 other episodes. Feel free to watch them. And if you like this stuff, we're going to keep on making it. So stay tuned. More will be coming in the future, and we'll leave you there. And at this point, we're gonna wait until to go watch Vancouver and Edmonton. So we'll see you after that. We'll probably both be horribly wrong, and like I said, give us smoke on Twitter. We don't care.
Take care, folks.
Yes.